Another biggie in the Rose Parade float world is the Phoenix Float Design and Build Company, and their barn, where they build and create their floats, is in Pasadena. Designer Dave Pittman has been doing this for many, many years, and he has 6 floats in this parade. So how do you become a float designer? I mean, if that's like a career I wanted to have, what do I do?
You kind of have to know these floats, so you pretty much have to have worked on them, either building them, decorating them. It really helps to know all those different phases. So, when you start in the art department, which is what I did, and you just kind of learn what it's about. There's small floats, big floats, medium floats, and you really just kind of have to know what it's about. It's a lot more than just drawing a pretty picture.
It's about making it look good on camera from every angle and making it look good in person and making sure that the colors, you can find the colors, right, in terms of natural materials?
Right. Every angle, that's actually an interesting point. The sight lines of this are all the way around. Tournament of Roses is very protective of making that happen. It's a television parade, but it's, people are really serious about making it for the people on the street as well. So you can't cheat towards camera side. They won't let you. So it has to look good from whatever camera angle they might throw at you. Sometimes they come straight up, from straight up top. Sometimes
like the blimp shot.
Right, the blimp shot. For a fact it's going to be shown from 3/4 view coming towards the camera. And that's how we do all of our renderings, so you can really see what that TV shot is going to be. But it's also filmed a lot during the week and during the year. So you have to make it compositionally look good from wherever somebody's going to be standing. At this stage, they're all painted and they're ready for the decorators. Some of the seeds are on right now, but it has to look like a float beforehand, so that when the floral gets put on, it really makes it pop.
So is your background art and design, or besides you say you have to know how to help with the floats, or maybe people have volunteered in the past and from the School of Hard Knocks they become a designer, or what?
Right, and it also helps to really know how to listen, because the client is the sponsor of the float is the one that ultimately decides the direction. We have a theme for the parade. But just fitting the theme of the parade isn't any good unless it feels right, for who's paying for it. Sometimes it's a marketing message, sometimes it's an emotional message. It all depends on the year and depends on the sponsor. But more often than not, they come in with a pretty strong idea of the direction they want to go.
Mm-hmm. And how many years have you been doing this?
Well, I've been involved with the floats 28. I designed my first float for the 92 parade. That was the first one I had in the parade. I had designed for a couple years prior to that without getting one in, because ultimately someone has to choose it. Whether it's a concept that I like, a float that I'd like to see in the parade. There's usually one or two every year that it's something I liked and it strikes a chord with a client as well. But far more often it's a process working with a client. Mm-hmm. How about this? How about this? How about this? And they say, I like this. This is interesting. Don't like this. Don't like this. Don't like this. Mm-hmm. Only about 1/10 of the fully thought out concepts that I do anyway ever make it down the parade route.
So it's kind of like Mad Men with flowers, right?
There's a big advertising component to this. Some of the clients, it depends on where they're getting the money to pay for it. Sometimes it's out of their corporate giving, but very often this is seen as an advertising buy. It's a unique advertising buy, but it's reaching a number of households. And so unlike other advertising venues where you have time to tweak it, depending on how people react to it, the power of this as an advertising tool is the sheer number of households that it reaches. I heard a figure one time that 1/10 of the world's population sees the parade at some point or another.
Of the world's population.
Yeah, and it surprised me that that percentage of people in the world owned a television. But the point is, especially now that it's in all of the Spanish-speaking countries, it reaches a lot of people, and that's the power of it. But you also get one shot at doing that, and so people sometimes are a little nervous too, making certain that they've done due diligence on the symbolism of different things in different countries. You know, like for instance, for us, an owl represents wisdom. You very often will see an owl if there's a float, with a mortarboard and a diploma, representing education. But there are some cultures where it means death, and it's the kind of thing you kind of have to have in the back of your mind. Or
like the cow. Here you've been working on some renderings of the cow, which we know means different things in different parts of the world.
No, that's very true. In this case, these are cows from a little farm scene.
They're happy cows.
They're happy, and they're supposed to be from Vermont. It's where HGTV has built the new dream home for 2011. But even in this case, it would be real easy to be careless and make a cow that nobody in Vermont has ever seen before.
Still ahead, we continue my chat with float designer Dave Pittman with the Phoenix Company. He talks more about what's the most difficult thing to draw for a Rose Parade float, and how sometimes the most simple float designs are the ones that really wow the crowd. I'm Cindy Dole with a special behind-the-scenes look at the makings of the Rose floats. Welcome back. I'm Cindy Dole, and this is a special behind-the-scenes look at the making of the Rose Parade floats. And for me, and I'm sure for you, no matter how many times you see these Rose Parade floats in person, it never seems to get old. I mean, there's always these new discoveries, and how did they do that moment? It's what Dave Pittman, a longtime designer for the Rose Parade floats, has done year after year, designing for 28 years. And now that much of the world sees what he creates, there's an added pressure.
If you do the toes wrong on a koala bear, you will hear from the koala experts out there that's the part of the parade that they wish were different. So there's a lot of research into individual pieces.
I mean, I guess there's a group of people out there that love to look for what's wrong, right? And then they want to send you emails or something. I mean, they like to pick it apart.
I think it's if it's depicting something that they know about. They will. I mean, I do that with movies. If it's a scene about something that I know about, I will notice what's wrong with it. But we have floats, of underwater scenes and a lot of flag references in the parade, and a lot of individual pieces that you want to get right. There's a certain lighthearted feel to a lot of this. If it's a fantasy float, it's kind of more up to us. But with every step along the way, with art department, the folks that sculpt it, we do some pretty serious referencing. We used to have cabinets full of drawings, and now internet searches have made it a lot easier, to get individual pieces right.
Like, for instance, this cow. I mean, here you've gone through sketches of, I saw the carcass and the spine, and I mean, you really have to know how it moves.
Yeah, that's funny. Moves.
How it moves.
Yeah, this was fun. I dusted off my old sculpting skills. I haven't been out in the studio in several years, but I'm here for decorating week early, and so I thought I'd pitch in and try and help out. Yeah. They're quite small. It's about as small a prop as will ever be made on a float. These guys are about 9 inches long.
So that's going to be decorated and go on the float? Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, they'll be covered with onion seed and rice, probably. Nice black and white cows, assuming I get them done in time.
What's been the most difficult thing to draw, knowing that it's going on a float with all these eyes looking at it and these critics that know better, right?
Yeah, the big fantasy stuff is real easy. Anything with a specific look actually is easy. It's ironic that things that become the most difficult to draw are things like a soccer ball or a golf ball that have a very, very specific patterning to them. At this stage, I've been drawing, for so many years that the ability to draw it is not the challenge. It's, coming up with a concept that somebody will say yes to.
And how has the appreciation for your concepts changed through the years that you've been doing this? I mean, trends come and go, and moods change. Are those dictating what the concepts? If that's going to be a wow, I got to have that concept reaction.
That's interesting. There's something about this parade that is real old school. I mean, the animation has gotten a lot more complicated, and we've started going over height a lot more just in the last 10 years. But short of that, there's not a lot that has changed about it. It's still the same basic materials that we have to pick from to use, to decorate. And the renderings are all hand done. The blueprints are all hand done. There's such an immediacy to the float itself. It's as complicated and as the number of hours that have gone into it. It's still it's a temporary art medium. It's really just designed for that day. And so anything too clean, computer generated, I just don't think would work. The renderings that work are the ones that look hand drawn, look hand done, and I think it is because of that immediacy, of the finished product itself, which is the float.
It's almost like people want that Disney-esque, Americana, because really this is, like you say, it's old school. It's been around for 100+ years. It's that warm and fuzzy, and if it's maybe too contemporary or too evolved and too trendy, maybe it's kind of a turnoff.
I think that's probably really true. It's always interesting I sit in the stands and watch the parade, but to hear people's reactions, because I don't always get it right, with which floats are going to be most entertaining, and a lot of times it's the low tech stuff that really gets people going. An entertainer on a float, or a message, or just the beauty with which something is decorated. Sometimes it's not the big overhyped stuff that if it's twice as high, it doesn't necessarily have twice the impact. From the emotional standpoint, I do a float every year for Donate Life, and there are riders on the float that are the recipients of organs that have been donated for them to live. And, very often you will see the rider on the float holding an 8x10 photo of the person, whose liver they currently have, or lungs. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, that is having as emotional an impact on the crowd as anything that's sculpted.
So it's not just the beauty, as you can see, but the marketing angles. A lot of strategy thinking that goes into these incredible Rose Parade floats. So when we come back, the people who create them, when do they finally get to relax? And what goes through their mind? I'm Cindy Dole. Our final segment on this behind-the-scenes look into the making of the floats after this.